guys, today we are going to be learning how to make a crochet moss stitch, sometimes also called linen stitch as well, but it's quite straightforward, quite a simple little stitch, and I think it's really effective. So what we've got here is a couple of little versions. So you've got this section here which shows you what it looks like with the colours changing in each row, and then you've got a section here which shows you what it looks like when you're using it for block colour. I'd really recommend changing colours for this one. I think it's most effective when you do that, and I think it really highlights kind of the different shapes. So that's what we're going to be learning how to do today. We're going to be using two colours, like that I've got here. So obviously you're going to need your 2 balls of yarn. I'm also using a 4mm crochet hook, but you know, adapt that as necessary depending on what yarn you're using. You're also going to need a darning needle and some scissors. But let's get started. So we're going to start by making a slip knot in whatever fashion you fancy, and then you're going to take your crochet hook, pop it into the loop, and now what we're going to do is we're going to chain an even number of stitches. So we need to do that because we're going to be working single crochet, chain stitch, single crochet, chain stitch the whole way along. So it needs to be a multiple of 2, can't be an odd number. So I'm going to do 16 today, but you can do 10, 20, 30, 50, whatever it is you need for your particular project. So we're just going to get started on our chains. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so we've got 16 chains there. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start working our way back along those chains. Now, to do that, what we're going to do is we're going to ignore the first stitch on the hook, so the one that it's attached to, and we're going to crochet, single crochet into the second chain from the hook. Now that is using US terminology. If you're using UK terminology, that would be a double crochet. Okay, so ignoring the first loop into the second, I'm going to pop our hook in and do our single crochet. Now we're going to chain 1, and we're going to ignore this next stitch on our chain, and we're going to work into the next one along. Okay, so ignoring this guy, working into this guy, and we're going to do our single crochet, and then we're going to repeat. Chain 1, ignore the next stitch along, working into the second, and do our single crochet. Then chain 1, and we're basically going to repeat that the entire way along the chain until we get to a couple from the end where I'll rejoin you. So it's single crochet, chain 1, skipping a stitch. That's essentially all we're doing. Okay, so we are down to our last 2 chain stitches. So as we've done the whole way along, we're going to skip that next one and single crochet into the very last one. Just like so. Now we're going to change colours at this point. So this is when we're going to bring our orange into the mix. What we're going to do, we're going to leave a nice long tail so that we can tie it in at the end. We're going to pop that over our hook and bring it through the loop. Okay, and you might just want to tie it in that green arm so that it holds nicely. We are then going to do a chain 1. Now you want this to be a nice loose chain 1 because we're going to want to work into it at some point. So don't put anything too tightly here. We rotate our work, and we're going to want to find our first chain space from the previous row. Now this can be a little tricky, but you should be able to see a hole that's much bigger than the other areas, and that's what we're going to want to be working into with our single crochet. So we've done our chain 1, and then we're going to single crochet in there. But what we want to remember to do as we're changing colours is carry our green, or whatever you're using, across. So you want to lay that strand of yarn that's attached to the ball across the top of your crochet. Okay, and we're going to work over the top of it. So single crocheting into that first chain space, give it a tug on the orange to make sure it's tight. And then we're going to chain 1, skip the single crochet from the previous row, and then we're going to work single crochet into the next chain space, all whilst continuing to carry that green yarn across with us. And we're going to repeat that, chain 1, single crochet into our chain space from the previous row, chain 1, and I'm going to repeat that towards the end. Okay, so I've just single crocheted into my last chain space, and what it looks like is it's got this little lump that sticks out at the end. That's our chain from our previous row. So what we're going to do to finish off is our last chain 1 after our single crochet, and you're going to want to work into that chain. So what you're going to do is you're just going to want to pop your hook in, find a little gap, and do a single crochet. Now, because we've carried our yarn along, that now means that we can swap colours without doing any cutting. So we can move our orange slightly out of the way and bring our green back into play. So now what we're going to do is our chain 1 to begin the row. So with our green, chain 1, and just use our orange there just to tighten it up. Rotate the yarn, and we're going to work into that first orange chain space. So you can see we've got our 2 orange stitches there, and we're going to pop the hook in, and remembering to carry our orange yarn along. That's important, very important. Remember to carry that along. We don't want to do lots of snipping. Single crochet, chain 1. And we're basically going to follow exactly the same as what we did in the previous row. So we're going to skip single crochet and then into our chain space, single crochet 1, chain 1, single crochet 1. Okay, so again we've got to the end of our row. We've done our last single crochet in the chain space. We do our chain 1, and then we're going to work into the end of our chain. So this stitch here. Now you might have to find the hole in this one. It's not always the friendliest of things to work into. Okay, so we're going to do our single crochet. And this is the point at which we swap colours. So, back to our orange. So we switch them over, like so. There we go. And then we do our chain 1. We then turn our work. And remembering, as always, to carry our green along the top. Always want to make sure it's coming along with us. So now we're going to single crochet into our first little gap, chain 1, still carrying the green, single crochet into the next gap, chain 1, single crochet into the next gap, chain 1, and we're doing that to the end. And then we're doing our last single crochet into that final chain space from the previous row. And there we basically have the gist of moss stitch. That's pretty much all you have to do, going backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, backwards and forwards, making sure you carry that yarn with you. Unless you enjoy suffering, in which case you can add in multiple colours and you would just snip the yarn at the end of each row before you brought in the new colour. If you may end up making something with this stitch, I'd really love to see it. Tag me on Instagram, comment down below. Thank you so much for watching. Have a lovely day.